Welcome to Deadhaus Whispers.
Greetings, everyone. I am Calypso, and welcome to another episode of Deadhaus Whispers. And as always, like usual, I am joined by my other host, Faceless Mike.
Greetings, hello, and welcome.
Happy belated Easter, everybody. We hope
Still
you
Easter.
enjoyed it.
Monday, still Easter.
Yeah, still Easter. Day 2 of Easter, the Easter week.
Like any good session, it's at least 2 days long.
Yes. And today is it's a good episode. It's another banger of an episode. The Pillar, the Prisoner, and the Child. There we go. Yes.
There we
Great
go.
episode.
Hey,
That's what we'll be talking about
applause,
today.
everyone.
Yep. That's what we'll be talking about today. This is your spoiler warning. If you have not yet listened to that episode, please feel free to drop this and go listen to that and then come back to this. Yeah, that's it. And you can follow all of us on the social medias. Don't worry. We'll throw it all out at the end. But yes, welcome to Deadhaus Whispers, everybody. We hope you are well. And in this episode, you are well with the ghouls. Some deep ghoul lore for this one.
No one was expecting that. I knew everyone knew that we were going to be getting into a bit of ghoul lore, right? Because, of course. Okay, again, spoilers. This is your last warning, okay? Last warning. If you have not watched the episode, right, and you were listening to this after the fact. If you're listening to it live, we don't mind losing the view. Don't ruin the story for yourself. If you're listening to this after the fact on Spotify or on anything, or if you're on YouTube, I don't mind. Pause the video, go watch it, come back. Last warning. Okay? Yep. Now, as we get into it, I don't think people expected when Alaric was brought to the Ghoul Mound that we were going to get as in-depth Ghoul lore as we got.
I sure didn't. No. But before we really dive deep into that, like always, this episode starts off with another great little intro.
221 years now have passed since the greatest empire of man crumbled.
And then we get into...
biased phrase, but still.
Yeah. Into every empire is the greatest empire ever made, right?
Of course, aren't they all?
Yeah. And then we get some more backstory, a little bit, on the world itself. So the greatest empire of man, Ustilia. And we find out that, like all great nations or empires, it's always built on the back of another one.
Civilizations, now lost to time, and the foundations of each were built on the bones of another. Just as Thacia rose from Ustilia, Ustilia rose from a predecessor, as did its predecessor from another still. The cycle of civilization from empire to ruins spins ever down through the ages, and ever down through the darkness of the depths.
And now Thacia has fallen with a new empire, maybe to rise in its place.
Well, we do know there's still a bit of human stuff standing that hasn't been taken by the Awakened, so maybe Gelras and whatnot gets a bit further, because that they're protected, because they're basically paying protection money to Deadhaus. So, in that mafiosa style, it'd be an awful pity if anything happened here, with just like a few names from the tithe, you're dead, undamaged, and we'll leave you alone.
And then we cut to now Alaric, and it's been a couple of days, a couple of weeks. There's no specific time frame given, which I really like. To be fair,
does time matter to the dead, really?
No, I don't
unless
think
there's an urgent, pressing matter functionally.
Yeah.
Who was it worked out that he was with the Lich? Someone, was it Varric or was it you? Someone worked out that when he was discussing...
For a month. I think it was he was with the Lich for a month.
Yeah.
But I mean, Alaric keeps his little journals and everything, so it matters to us, and it matters to him for now. So he's still in the cage, and I called this the last episode. I thought this was really great, that our Chekhov's gun setup for that was the cage that Alaric built to capture the ghoul in the earlier seasons, in season 1, I think even, is the same cage that he is now trapped in for himself. We learned the really cool thing that Alaric's is sort of keeping time and track by the blood in his body shifting with the sun. So he's like a human, a blood sundial inside of him. It's really cool. It's a really cool little detail of that's how that stuff works. I love it.
I spent that time in the very cage I had crafted to contain the ghoul, tracking the passage of days by the counterpull of my blood against the sun. which I could sense even so far below the mountain.
I like the way you keep going over that, because even that far down underground, he can still feel it.
Yeah,
which means either the blood is very powerful or the sun is very powerful. One or the other.
There's not twin suns. There's no twin moons or twin suns on Malarm, right? I don't think
three
so.
Moons.
Three moons. Three moons. And then we Falk visits Alaric. Falk visits Alaric quite often. And then we get some really good banter. This whole episode is just gold nuggets of dialogue throughout the entire thing. We get some gold dialogue of Alaric's like, "How long are you going to keep me in here?"
For how long will you keep me here, ghoul?
Another day, another year, another century, perhaps.
My, how the tables have turned.
It's like you totally, and the best part is with Matt Curtis's delivery, you can feel the sort of pettiness in his voice about all this. It's so good, man. So Alaric complains about that a little bit, and then the ghoul, it's super gross that the ghouls use their stomachs as like backpacks, from what I gather, because I was eating breakfast re-listening to this, and don't mistake, and every single time, like throughout the entire episode, the ghouls like hawk stuff up, and it's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard in my ears.
Shout out to Felipe for the sound.
Yes.
Spit up the key to the cage, which it pinched with the tips of two enormous claws.
Yes, it's great. So they use their stomach as a sort of storage unit, and he hawks up a key, in the grossest way, and he throws a prisoner in there, and then we get some really cool, more detailed lore stuff, in that Falk counts, and he says, "Oh, there's 3 in the cage. I will come back when there's only 2," or something.
No, he says, "I count 3. I will come back to count again."
But there's so far now there's a prisoner. There's a prisoner in there, and there is Alaric in there. So what is the third person?
And we get the answer to that later in this episode.
Yes,
the one
we do.
We all kind of hinted at it. We all kind of knew it. It's been hinted at, but it's literally blatantly said later. So pinning that for a while. Keep going.
Yeah. So we get the prisoner in there, and then Picky. He's a picky eater, because Alaric's like, "Oh, what are you doing starving this person?"
We give him feasts. He is a picky eater. Picky, yes.
So Alaric tries to talk to his prisoner, but the prisoner is frail. He is basically starving, and like emaciated. Yeah, there we go. Emaciated is the word. So Alaric tries to talk to him and learn more about him, but the prisoner doesn't want to talk, and Alaric forcefully speaks to him, and then we get hypnotism. We get Alaric discovering, unbeknownst to him, hypnotism.
Vampire.
Look at me! I had seen an effect like this before, from my Inquisitor's chimes.
Which is super cool.
What would you call it? Mesmerize? Hypnotize? I've heard in other things, it wouldn't be in Deadhaus, but I think it's in The Masquerade. They refer to it as glamour.
Yeah,
the
something
whole thing
like
where
that. Charm. What's there's a vampire class in Bloodlines or Masquerade that the Ventru, I think, and they're the Charmer class, like the smooth talk, the charisma class. There we go. So that happens, and then Alaric is using his hypnosis, figuring about more about this prisoner. It's like, "Oh, who are you? I am a Drek, just a Drek from Gelris. They didn't pay the tithe," I think is what he says.
He says, he says, "What is your name?" Or, "Who are you?" "I'm just a Dreg from Gelras." He's like, "Why are you here?" "My name was in the tithe."
Who are you?
I am a Drek. I'm just a Drek.
From Gelras?
Not inside. Never inside.
What are you doing here? What are they doing to you?
My name was in the tithe.
His name was in the tithe. That's what it was. does. And then we get a sort of inner working on how ghouls sort of convert others to be ghouls by feeding them flesh, by starving them, by invoking them into cannibalism. And then I guess they just slowly morph into ghouls in some other way. But he tries to speak to the prisoner. We learn about hypnotism. He notices that the effect he has on the prisoner is sort of a clouded effect, and it's a very similar effect to when he was using his Inquisitor's bells thing in earlier episodes, especially when he hypnotized he tapped his bells to hypnotize the person who walked in on him and the ghoul having a conversation, and then he fed the ghoul. So again, it's kind of like a circular event here with the prisoner and him and everything else. It's great stuff. Falk comes back and the ghoul, he's like, okay, here, eat this. So he throws him like some guts or something. It's gross. Gross the entire time, every ghoul interaction here. Right? Ugh. Blood calls to Alaric to feed on the prisoner, but Alaric rejects it. And then Falk comes back and he says, I still count 3. He leans in and gives the prisoner more organs, and they debate about cannibalism. That's what my notes are. And then we get, it's like
I love that when he says eating another human is anathema. Falk
yeah.
is like, yes.
Yes, it is.
Leave him be.
You would have him starve?
Cannibalism is anathema.
Indeed, it is.
Falk is great. The prisoner still talking is
Monsters.
There's another one.
What?
I saw it.
So what?
When I ate, it wasn't there before. But then I woke up, and it was watching me.
What was watching you?
The smiling thing.
Whenever I open my eyes or whenever I look away, I see this thing. I see the smiling thing. The prisoner says, and that legitimately frightened me when I heard that. Like, what is this smiling thing? That's so ominous and foreboding. Ugh. Then Falk comes. I guess he's still there. He comes back. Can't remember. Then Falk lets Alaric out of the cage a little bit quicker than he wanted, and there is a ghoul gathering, a gathering of ghouls, and they go to this green, really great descriptions here. This like green acidy kind of looking stuff. This bile. It's a literal pool of bile. It's
the
disgusting.
great bile.
The great bile. Alaric cannot go in to the bile. He's warned to stay out because it will eat you.
Vampires may not enter the sacred bile.
Sacred
You will wait here.
Just out of curiosity.
Because it will eat you. No more slow speak now. Silence.
We get I love throat singing. Get to the ghouls and how they sing. In the last episode, they alluded, we have to sing and make our judgment, right? So now they are singing, and they're gathered around in a circle, and they all start throat singing. And it's like, you can think of it as like Tibetan throat singing, only worse.
Then a noise I had not yet heard from them rose. It was a low, croaking sound, emanating from deep in a ghoul's chest.
The water ripples. I'll put all this in. The water ripples, and it forms a triangle. So it starts to fade out from their singing, and it starts to rotate.
The shifting pattern stabilized, and the surface of the pool became a strange triangular spiral, rotating counterclockwise. Then this harmony manifested. My blood began to tremble with the same frequency, and I felt it spinning counterclockwise within me.
Counterclockwise. It forms a triangle in the center of this pool.
Meanwhile,
almost relevant. Meanwhile, while it's rotating counterclockwise, Alaric starts to feel weird. The blood inside of Alaric also begins to tremble and rotate counterclockwise with it, with the chanting and the singing. And then Alaric, out of his third eye, this strange third eye vision, sees something, this strange creature, almost like it's outside of memory and experience.
Big smiling thing.
Yes.
Then too, I became aware of something I was blind to before. Something else was in that chamber with us. It was hidden to my sight, but my blood brought into resonance with the ghouls, could now sense its presence.
This big smiling thing. He says it's older. It's other, is what he says, which is just wild, man.
Something
and it's only for a brief
unknowable.
Second. Yeah, it's only
but that's
for like a brief
how people
second.
were wondering, because people are like, well, what do they mean by the ghouls singing? This is them communicating. So this is essentially the ghouls equivalent of them all gathering together and having a big debate and deciding what to do and communicating with what they would see as their god, their elder, their master. And they're all having this discussion, but it's all done through the method of throat singing, which is beautiful. That's amazing.
Oh yeah, it's a great little detail. I love it. And then it also sort of brings into question, and we sort of get our kind of answer, right? I think, to the prisoner in the cage. He sees this smiling thing whenever he like fades off into the distance, or whenever he's dreaming or something. He sees this, so he sees this sort of spiritual other being in his dreams, and he's a starving person. So we know that he's sort of turning into a ghoul.
I think Sion was one of the ones he loves pointing out that phrase. So he's the only one I remember, so I'd attribute it to him. Was the spirit of hunger.
Yeah,
that's what you call this. That's what like the ghouls' greater thing would be, the spirit of hunger, because that's what they are. They're permanently emaciated and wanting for devouring. You know.
Alaric asks him, "What was up with the singing, dude?" And then. I love the thing that Falk says. He's like, "Oh, it's difficult to tell the story in slow speak.
It's difficult to explain in slow speak."
Yeah, he can't find the words, which is awesome. The ghouls talk in their clicky language, and they're sort of in their own sect of being that they physically cannot find the words in regular human speak to tell what exactly was going on.
There mightn't be. There might only be words in ghoul speak. It might not translate to English.
That could be it.
To Thasian or slow speak, whichever you want to call it.
And then Falk's like, "Okay, we gotta go. We made our decision. We sang." He says, "It's cool. Let's go." And it's like, okay.
I have a feeling Amarax knew.
Oh,
he
definitely.
knew.
He totally knew. He has to. Like, I think the thing with Amarax is that he's been alive for so long, and he's so smart. Or I guess outside the realm of regular thinking and scheming and planning. To quote Dune, plans within plans within plans. In that Amarax has plans within plans within plans. So he has thought about whatever his plans are so far in advance that he is well prepared for every single thing. He knows what the ghouls are going to do before they do.
I also think he's built that relationship with the ghouls that are like, no matter how ridiculous and annoying and stupid his request might be, they are always paid and compensated far beyond what they would expect. So they're like, yeah, okay, we'll just do it because like he's come through all the other times. We'll just, we'll go this time.
So Falk, to get back to it, Falk's like, okay, we got to go. We've talked to our elder thing, and then let's go. Alaric's, okay, well, how many are going with us? And then Bo shows up, and he's like, "What's up, dude?" And we get a great little math joke that also hints at like ghoul physiology or etymology or whatever it is, where they say six, we're going with 6, but there's only 3 of them. And then Bo makes that little joke, 5.5 with this vampire. So
that's the joke, again, because Alaric's doesn't even count as 1. So each ghoul is 2. Because you hear Falk back in the day when he says, "We are 2 like you," right? And then you've got Alaric, who is 1.5 according to Bo. Because you've got the other and then Alaric, who they only count as a half. And then it's funny because Alaric still doesn't understand. These creatures understand beyond his comprehension, but yet he's mocking them because he thinks they don't understand math.
Say in slow speak. We will go below now.
You will? How many of you?
Only we.
Bogul said, trundling alongside us. Wonderful. Will 3 be enough?
6 we have.
5.5 with this vampire. Yes.
Yes, let us pray that retrieving the soul prism does not require simple arithmetic. I follow.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite little bits. The rest, and then the rest of it after we descend through some tunnels just becomes an entire comedy routine, and it's golden. So Falk, Bo, and Alaric descend into some tunnels, and they go further and further and further until they reach a large chasm, a large hole, so dark downside you can't see it. And then Alaric is like, "How are we gonna get down there?" And then Bo is like, "Carefully" or something, and he pushes him.
Down into the abyss.
After you.
I can't see the bottom.
Let us help.
Before I could answer, a mighty claw thrust against my back and pinched me into the hole face first.
He discovers that he's basically impervious to falling because he's fallen before, and then he's fallen down again now, and nothing. He just kind of, he's good.
He says he doesn't know for how long he fall, but it was long enough to think of terrible things he would do to the girl.
He lands on a bed of fine ash. It is gray to his eyes, like a vast desert, but flat. There's no wind, so there's no sand dunes. He does notice strange patterns in the sand, and he also notices the ghouls are crawling down the wall easily, almost as if like they were just walking on solid ground. And then they pause right before they touch the ash, so they don't touch it. So they're still kind of just chilling and hanging on the wall. So there's something there that they don't want to mess with.
And then Bo's first answer was,
Told you he would be fine.
which is funny because it shows one, Bo's got a sense of humor. Two, Falk must have seemed concerned because we said, I told you before that. Falk we missed the conversation of what the hell did you do that for? You know, what if he gets eaten? So he actually had some bit of concern for Alec.
I like that. Bo or Falk, they say they have to cross the writhing dark. It's such a cool line. Then the ghouls glance at each other and they're hesitant to touch the sand.
The way's yet, Alaric the Damned. He must cross the writhing dark.
Then let's be done with it. Well, what are you waiting for?
This place is less safe for ghouls than for vampires.
And why is that?
Vampires are very quiet, yes. Nothing can feel their feet falling.
Vampires prance,
says Bo.
Yep. As if nothing can detect a vampire's footprint, and Bo's just like, because they prance.
Yeah, it's great. Alaric looks out for them to tell them what they see. They smell, everything smells as ashes, so they just can't detect anything really. So then, I like
the little Lord of the Rings nod in that I think a lot of people missed.
I definitely missed
right
it.
there. It's what Falk says is, what do a vampire's eyes see?
What do a vampire's eyes see?
Legolas, what do your elf eyes see?
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. Just loads of little nods and stuff like that I've noticed in the writing, which is really cool.
Because they can't really smell properly down there because it's just ashes. We get into a conversation about burning and why it burned and everything else like that. But so Bo is like, here, take this. And then he hucks up some spleen and just hands it to Alaric.
Big hunk of spleen.
Yeah, it's so gross. So they tell Alaric, you have to go land on some stones, please. And then when you're on top of a big stone, squeeze it and we will follow. We'll come to you.
In God's name, why?
So we can find you.
What is it? The armored ghoul clasped my hand with one of its claws and slapped a dripping chunk into my palm.
Spleen. Give it a squeeze when you reach the stone.
Finds out is they're so far down, they're so deep down that they are under the world gate. The ghouls crawled down the world gate, and Alaric was falling for so long because he was falling down the world. The world gate descends so deep into the ground that it is just like a hollow, like another world, literally another world under there.
How far down does it go? All the way down.
To quote Bo, I think, their bones are dust and their voices are whispers. is how ancient that place is. Alaric walks to the stones, not leaving any footprints, and then he squeezes the spleen. They follow. Falk, before they follow, actually, Falk hawks up a big loogie and spits a big chunk of something, and it lands pretty far on the ashes, and then something moves around it.
Make haste now, Alaric, but quietly.
All was still. You might have mentioned there was a creature.
Sometimes there is not.
Well, what is it?
Clatter clack.
At the mention of this name, Ghoul shuddered in its armor. Is that an animal? Is it undead?
We haven't asked it.
Vampire can try.
They do this a couple more times. They repeat the process before Alaric gets to the center stones. And the stones there are a little bit lower. Repeat. And then we get a really cool poem.
The writhing dark, an end of rain, where sleepless lie great stones unmade.
The broken bones of cities slain, the ashes of a house betrayed.
They don't know what the name of it is. It's so old. It's literally just turned to ashes and it's burned down or whatever. And the only thing that kind of remains of this city, or this area, this place, is that little remembrance poem, sort of, from the Ghouls.
That's the memory. Because you've noticed that a lot of things, even what Amarax told Alaric and what the others have told him, a lot of it's done in like a rhyming scheme to make it easier to remember in a type of a poem, which you'll notice in the Necro too, for anyone that bothers to pay attention.
I need to go back and listen to the Amarax episode just in case there is some poetry in there that I missed. I'm sure there is.
I'll get that little
and then we get that little poem, and then we slowly fade into what is an action scene. At this time when Falk hucks up a piece of stuff, it's kind of quiet. There's no movement. And we've learned that the creature, this Clatterclack, has figured out their plans. They realize they're not going to make it halfway through because Bo turns around and plummets headlong into this creature, and he bashes the creature, and they struggle, and then Bo gets dragged under to the ashes. He's gone.
I'd just like to point out for that exact part where Bo was dragged under the ashes, I was surprised, and it was actually a heartwarming surprise, that when we were watching this live, the amount of people in the chat were like, no! And they all freaked out and were upset that they thought Bo was going to die. It's like this new guy, this new character, and everyone warmed up to him so much. That's so, like, adorable. Yeah, but it's cool that's like how quickly you can get attached to a character so fast, and people just seem to, like, really take to Bo, even from the beginning.
Bo is great. Bo is a great character. He shows up for like 2 minutes in the previous episode. That's it. Hey, what's up? And then he drags him away. He says a couple more words, and then Falk shows up. That's it. Bo has had less than 2 minutes of like screen time.
Hey, look, everyone loves him. Everyone loved him so much.
Character already.
Everyone loved him so much. I think we're going to have Damon on. We're going to have to see can we get Damon on. We'll get Damon on. Y'all can meet Bo.
Yeah, absolutely. And
hopefully.
Then, oh man, that'd be cool.
Damon, we'd love to have you on, dude.
Yes,
I'll reach out.
Join us. The Bo's been dragged into the ashes. They struggle for a bit, and then Bo emerges, but only his face is gone now. Bo is like the tank of the group. In previous episode, he's described as kind of having literal bone armor.
Called it.
Attached to like his body, and he has kind of like a bone helmet. Well, that helmet is completely gone now, and his whole face has been like ripped off practically.
Took my face.
Yeah. His face is gone. And then basically Bo tries to grab the stone. The creature is still grasping onto Bo, and this is a great little like rescue him, save him moment, because Falk sort of upside down hangs off with his feet, grabs Bo by the arms. Alaric grabs Falk by his feet, and they all sort of pull Bo out, and then they do, but he's missing his legs now. His legs have been eaten. And I was like, oh fuck, Bo's gonna die. His face is gone, his legs are gone. what's gonna happen?
Monty Python, just put a flesh
Monty
wound.
Python. Yes, just but a flesh wound. His legs don't go with him, is what I have written here. The Clatterclack emerges. Falk grabs Bo. Alaric rushes. They all rush to the center. And the Clatterclack is this big worm centipede creature. Alaric.
The description was very Dune-esque at the beginning.
Yes, very Dune-esque. Like this whole episode. I think Dennis knew. Catch on to that hype, Dennis. Alaric rushes, attempting to lure the Clatterclack away. See, even this, like, he's actually concerned for the ghouls. It's great stuff. His arm gets caught into the Clatterclack, and then Falk has a great idea, and he spits up some acid. It lands on Alaric's arm, and he loses his hand again.
Acid loogies confirmed.
Acid loogies, yep. Alaric, this is cool. To get away from that, Alaric casts essentially Ard. He casts like a telepathic blast or something on this creature, and it knocks the creature back.
We've seen that in the demos. He hasn't really done too much, but we've seen that in the demos with Victor and all. Telekinesis just poof, and knocks it back.
It's great stuff. I have Alaric casts Ard here, and it hits the Clatterclack. We get a cool moment.
Igni would have been better.
Oh yeah, Igni would have been better, definitely. We get a cool another comedy bit here. In order to escape from all of this, Falk literally says, "I need a hand here," and then Bo rips off his hand and hands it to Falk.
Need a hand here.
Falk Ghoul said, and Bo Ghoul reached forward, offering one of its claws, which Falk Ghoul snapped off at the wrist with its teeth and devoured in seconds.
Falk eats it, and he starts to grow back like another arm, and he's like, "More, please." So Bo starts just de-limbing himself. He rips off the rest of his arms. He rips off the rest of his legs. Falk eats all that stuff, and we learned that he's growing multiple limbs out of his body. It's the coolest thing.
Well, remember what Dennis said before with the ghouls, you are what you eat. So
yep, you are what you eat. So we now have a like 6-armed Falk, and he's carrying Ghoul. He's carrying Bo like Yoda style, I imagine.
Under one
Empire,
arm.
Under one arm.
And Alaric under the other.
He's carrying Alaric, and then they start and then he uses it with his other arms and feet to scatter up the wall because they're now in like the center of this city, right? Yeah. And they finally
he's going down, not up.
Oh, he's going down. He's going down. So they do that. They finally land on like a safe space where the Clatterclack is away, and they're on solid ground now, to where he can't reach it. You know,
because this is down at the other level, and he says, Alaric asks him, "How are we going to get back?" He's like, "Well, it's there sometimes, and sometimes it goes somewhere else."
Yeah. And then,
what do you mean? It's just not there all the time.
Not there all the time.
You did well.
Did okay.
But what was that thing?
The Clatterclack.
You charged straight into it.
Took my face, yes.
It took your legs too.
Still got arms.
You don't, though.
They're only borrowed.
And you melted my hand.
You're welcome.
I just got that back.
You will again, yes.
And I got that Clatterclack.
You did.
They're only borrowed. He's like, and I hit it with the thing. It's like, you did.
Yeah, good job. We get another great thing where Alaric is kind of pissed now. He's like, Amarax sent us here, and he must have known this. And and then Falk is like, Amarax knows these things. He does this often. We don't really ask. He just sends us on a task and we do it with not much detail. Glitches. Glitches.
Yeah, you can see that. Liches.
Yeah.
Liches.
I have a feeling that's the meme there. That's the meme. That's going to be a thing. I can see that perpetuating into the game onto the same level of the yes.
Yes. Yeah, I see it too. It's great. It's good stuff. Liches.
Everyone,
man. Liches.
You wipe in a group and you'll just see coming up in the chat, liches.
They travel further into the actual ancient city that this is. that Sith that this is Darth Vader. And then another great, like, this part scared me. I thought, like, this actually scared me. They travel further in, and they all of a sudden they hear a distant rattling of chains.
Saw then the shadows of the passage begin to leak and spill, as if they were fluid, sliding along the cavern floor, stretching out into the image of a hooded figure. The hooded shadow rose slowly from the floor, coming upright, a cloak of impenetrable black.
And then a wraith
and a weird
has found
low
them.
hum.
Mm.
I love that. This was my favorite part of it, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah. We learn, and we get some more insight into wraiths now. So the wraith has found them. Falk stands in front of Alaric, and he's like, "Hey, stand back. This meat is for the mound, protecting him." It's good stuff.
This meat belongs to the mound, aka you have no power here.
Yeah. And the wraith is like, "No, I don't care, bro." And he does this cool teleport thing. So he blinks, like you blink, and then he's just there. He's gone. He's in another area.
His description of it as well, of like, he's describing blink, but he says, "It appeared beside me suddenly, as if not through speed, but as if it had always been there, and the memory of where it was has faded."
Yeah, it's
beautiful
cool.
poetry.
It's so cool. And then Falk throws Amarax under the bus. He's like, "Hey, you can't have him. There are two in this whole plot. Amarax is the other. You go find him."
Again, there's where we now, what I said, we'll unpin that now. That's who the other always was. When he says, "We are two like you," as in there are two beings in your mind, in your body, Amarax is the other. He's not the one you want. Amarax is the other. Like, there you go. That's what it means. So now we know there are two in Alaric. So there's Alaric and Amarax. Now the question is, the ghoul, we are two like you. Who's the other?
It could be the smiling thing.
I think it's the
smiling thing.
I don't know. Was it you, Calypso? In the after chat, someone had brought it up. I can't remember who, because we were all talking, and it was a great discussion going on with Dennis.
But I don't remember who.
When they were saying, it might have been Scar, actually, I'm thinking. They said, when they brought up that when you're saying their name, Falk Ghoul, that's who you're referring to. You're referring to Falk and the ghoul, as in that is what the great spirit of hunger is. So you're addressing both of them. That's why it's Bo Ghoul, Falk Ghoul. And that's a really interesting one, because like, that could be correct. That could be lore accurate. That's interesting because you're addressing the body and the spirit, the great spirit of hunger, because that's where we are ghoul.
Yes, it's just, plus, I mean, not double speak. Speaking in the second person, I think is the coolest ever in like anything, like sort of like Yoda talk. It's cool. It's cool. They travel further. They meet the ghoul. God, they meet the wraith. And then
the wraith was about to go out for an attack. He was releasing the chains.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the other thing. Sorry, I totally skipped over that. I'll put it in.
Then the wraith sleeves raised slightly from its sides. Its shadowy fingers opened, and many chains unfurled from the depths of its cloak, stretching outward in all directions, bending towards the three of us with their hooked tips.
This is not the one you want. There are two. Amarax is the other.
The wraith hood tilted for a moment, then glanced up and away from us.
Cool Hellraiser chain moment. When this happened, I pictured him the wraith summons all these chains and they sort of come around him in spikes. And I pictured Dr. Octopus from Spider-Man just with chains. And he sort of is doing that whole thing, but with chains, and it's like the octopus arms. And
I started getting the idea of like in the more Hellraiser thing of like these chains coming out of the cloak, like had hit the ground and are running along the ground and along the walls, like they were about to like come in and grab, because it doesn't specify what's on the end of those chains. Are they hooks? Are they what? Because Bo and all said at the end, Falk says at the end, it's like Amarax is more fit to deal with that than we are, you know? It's we're not fighting that. Let him do it.
Nope. But freaking Falk is still carrying Bo under his arm. Just, hey, buddy.
Yep. And then he's pointing that out. He's like, Amarax is better fit to deal with that than we are. He's like, won't it go for him? Won't it come for him? He says, it already has.
Yeah.
Because like the minute it blinked away, that's where it appeared.
That's where it goes, yeah. We need, I'm just throwing this out there, we need some art from the team of Falk carrying Bo Yoda style on his back. Please, just do it for me. 6 arms and all, baby. Please. That's all I'm picturing. I know he's carrying him under his arm, but in my head, he's on his back like Yoda. His head's popping onto his side like, what's up? Let's see. And then we get to the solar prism. The whole thing, the whole journey on this.
Oh, we missed one tiny bit.
Oh.
The lines in the ground. And they mention about the magic. And he says, what is this? And as they cross over it, Alaric feels like a cloth put over him. Like and he says, these lines are to stop magic. He says it's a field put in to dampen magic. And he says, is it to protect them from people using magic against them in this old empire back in the day? And Bo says, or to prevent them from using it. And it's like the hint back and forth that the old people there was some kind of real protection spell thing done on it.
Yeah.
Now, was that to protect people from using magic against them, or was that to stop them from using magic? This is a lore secret we'll learn in ages from now.
and it expands into did it follow the typical the empire falls from within like usual, or did it fall from without?
Well, they mentioned that the symbols that he used, Alaric points out, they look very similar, but not exactly as the symbols Amarax used when doing his spell. So he's like, is Amarax from this group? Is he one of them? Is this how old he is, that he was one of, or did he just learn their magic? Because he was a lich, so he will have learned everything, you know?
Yeah.
Then we get to the
threshold. Then we get to the cool stuff. So
here is where you do your work.
There, I pointed to the strange tower, the soul prism.
A pillar of Malorum.
The Lich told me this name. He said it was one of the great houses, the pillars.
They are the first house, as we are the last.
But it's just a massive stone.
It is a pillar of souls. Yes.
So we come across this giant, at least that's what I have it in my head. Apparently Alaric can grasp this with his hands perfectly fine. But I have it in my head as a giant emerald pillar stands before Alaric.
So when he talks about the thing grasping his hand, that was at the top of it. This is at the base. When he gets up to it, it's a big thing that he walks around.
Okay. So this giant emerald green pillar, just think, Legacy of Kain, a pillar, just a singular one. It's emerald green and it's made out of...
It's almost so dark it looks black.
Yeah,
and
is
it's
what
all
it is.
one solid piece.
And he has to extract this soul prism carefully.
How are you going to extract it? Quietly.
Ooh, what does that mean? And then we get that here's where you do your work. It's the soul prism, pillar of Malorum. The pillars is what he said. I think Falk says the pillars, they are the first house and we are the last. And then maybe Deadhaus. But then again, the ghouls don't really fall under, they don't really care for Deadhaus, do they?
But they're under the purview.
They're still under. That's true.
The mound has its own rules, but they are ghouls. They are still part of Deadhaus.
And if he does not extract the soul prism quietly and carefully, he will merge with the pillar, and not even the Weaver could unstitch him then.
That's one of the greatest bits that I think quite a few missed in the discussion, because referring to a Lalmot, so they're acknowledging their god, even if they don't directly have much to do with them, but they do know it controls death. It is a Lalmot, the weaver of fate. and death, because it is the god of death. So it knows and controls the death of everyone and everything. So it weaves the threads of fate. People think like, oh, weavers, like think more Norn, in Greek mythology, the Norns that weave the threads of fate, that type of a thing.
Yeah.
And is saying that when you're tucked to that pillar, even the weaver can't unstitch you, aka you will have been consumed by another great power of Malorum, that our god can't fix this.
And I love how when Alaric is even in vicinity of this thing, when he crosses that little threshold, the blood inside of him starts to feel uneasy and uncomfortable, which is insane. Like, you have the blood of probably an ancient freaking vampire inside your body. It is it has you are filled with loads and loads of magic, so much magic that even Amarax was surprised.
And your blood's trying to nope out of
there. Your blood is trying to nope out of there immediately is a really insane thing. He inspects the pillar. The tip of the spire might be the weakest, so he could break off a piece, is what he is thinking.
Yeah. And you notice it tapers off as it goes up, so he jumps up to try to get to the top.
And he wraps it around his hand like a faint glowing green, I think is what he says, or it's going from it. He wraps like one hand around it, so he gets a good grip. And then he breaks off a piece as large as a knife, and it makes only the slightest sound.
Clink.
And immediately the ghouls start to flee.
Yep.
Alaric leaps off and falls, and he starts to feel getting pulled in to this thing. It starts to like suck him.
It all collapses. The whole ground
collapses.
That's what collapses, and he falls.
And then he falls into a soft thing. I don't have the description for it, but it's basically
a
giant
down and he hits a rope, and he reaches out. He's like, "What is this? I hit some type of rope." But it is a cross-sectioned rope, and I appear to be stuck to it.
Oh no, I wonder what this is.
It's so wet.
Dun, dun, dun. And then, see, now, here's the thing is, the moment this happened, I was like, oh, the Weaver, it's a giant spider. It's got to be. Is the Weaver's physical incarnation a giant spider that weaves webs?
Because that would be the Weaver doesn't exist in ours. That's one of the gods, the same as the pillar, the Twisted Mother. This thing is something else. This belongs to this thing. Yeah, Shelob's cousin belongs to the pillars.
Okay.
Because it is around the pillars. It is protecting the pillar.
Guardian. Okay.
Because again, as I pointed out, this is a pillar of souls. I said there are ones like it all over Malorum, ones for each type of magic.
I'm about to say,
this one is a pillar of
only
souls.
One of them. There's probably a bunch of. There's what, 9 or
maybe?
10 others? 9, yeah.
At least 9, maybe.
9
houses.
So that's one.
9.
Yeah, so that's one pillar, and maybe a giant spider.
No, it would be more actually, because you've got each. If you take each house,
each one per
is
house.
representative of 3, but each house shares 2. There's math here. We need Varric.
Yeah, we need ghoul math. Well, you see, there's 12 here, really.
There's 4 in the center and 1 on each end for an octahedron. So that'd be 4 or 5. There's at least 6 pillars then. At least.
Dennis, can you confirm whether it's 9 pillars or more? Please.
Well, it does say 6 gods, 9 houses.
It does. Oh, that's true. So it could be there's 9 houses. Each gets a pillar, and 6 of those pillars are specifically for.
No, but they'd be shared, like when you do the octahedron, right? So you've got Deadhaus as one pyramid, but it's got vitality, essence, and magic.
Oh, good point. Yeah, you're right.
The essence pillar.
There would be a vitality.
There would be a red vitality pillar, a blue magic pillar, and then Varric can fill in the rest of these later.
Dennis, I have Eternal Darkness questions, and I kind of remember what they are, but I'll write them down. Yellow pillar, perhaps, please. Okay, so we meet Shelob's cousin this is the cool thing. It speaks, it projects mentally into Alaric, and it says, "Be still in the cold stream."
Lie still in the cold.
Lie still in the cold stream.
And it said it wasn't addressing him; it was addressing his blood.
Oh, hey, Dennis. Thanks for.
There we go. Exactly. There you go, Dennis. There's Eternal Darkness questions from Calypso now in a few
I have
minutes.
Eternal Darkness question. Okay, so NDA regardless or not, and Deadhaus tying it in. Are all the 9 planets sort of the original plan that you had for Eternal Darkness? And if they aren't, can you elaborate on what the yellow god in Eternal Darkness was going to be? If not, what will there be a yellow pillar representing some sort of yellow god? Because Hastur, if we're talking about Lovecraft stuff, Hastur is one of my favorite gods. He's represented with yellow, yada 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 yada. That's where I'm going.
Calypso
with this,
just discovered that the pillar didn't represent a house, but that the pillars were the types of magic, vitality,
Yeah, I don't know why it
magic,
didn't.
essence,
Why
and
it
that the
didn't hit
green
with me
pillar
earlier.
is the essence pillar, which gave a soul prism because it's souls, it's essence, and now it's like, oh, yellow.
Yeah, yellow. That's what it is. Duh.
Where's the yellow pillar?
Uh,
We'll explain in the next Eternal Darkness.
Okay, cool. One day, please, Nintendo, just sell the rights.
There you go.
Tony, what lie still in the cold stream? So this is cool. The giant spider is also still managing to control Alaric's blood. His blood turns into molasses, he says, and he completely like freezes. And then he starts to pray to El Sabaoth, which is I love Hastur as well. Yes, Yellow King is awesome. Hastur's great.
Yeah,
I have an idea for a video game with
Eternal Darkness, and I love Hastur as well, and the King in Yellow. Fantastic, by the way.
Great stuff. Thanks, Dennis, for just saying anything.
Yeah, you were saying he prayed to El Sabaoth.
He prays to El Sabaoth. He prays to El Sabaoth to save him, and then boom.
Actually, El Sabaoth preserve me, I think, or the exact.
El Sabaoth, preserve me.
Alaric prays, and then we get the return of the giant, multi-winged, biblically accurate, creepy friggin' eyeball angel with a giant eye.
There was a blinking flash of light, and then he found himself in a field looking up at the big giant messenger.
Yes.
Because that's what he asked him. He said, "Are you El Sabaoth?" He says, "A messenger."
A messenger. And we get the traditional "Be not afraid, be not afraid," which is
not afraid.
Is so cool. We get a prophecy that, again, I'll put the clip in.
Be not afraid. Be not afraid.
Please. What do you want?
Thrice hast thou prayed. Thrice hast thou been delivered.
3 times?
The pillar, the prisoner, the child.
El Sabaoth, you?
A messenger.
What message?
The embers of the Allfire yet burn on Malorum. The gold will be rekindled.
I don't understand.
Hidden by the faithful, guarded from the heretics.
Why tell me this?
It is thy destiny. Of thy flesh thou shalt give to the gold, and thus shalt the dawn come.
There must be a mistake. I didn't know my prayers would be heard. I didn't know any of this.
Be silent! When the serpent swallows the seed, when the fountain swallows the sun, I will return and bear thee to thy fate. Amen.
After doing this on Easter Monday as well. But before he says that, remember, he actually tells him that the Allfire still burns on Malorum.
Yes. And the gold...
It hasn't been extinguished. The gold still burns on Malorum, guarded by the faithful.
So there are still worshippers of El Sabaoth, is what I got from that. And that, if we go back to it, the worshippers of El Sabaoth, the churches and everything, they separated their castes, if you will, into different ashes. And they burned it. They burned your ashes into a giant pyre like egg pyre or wing pyre or something called the gold is what they call it.
Gold. There's like a massive chalice fire crucible thing.
Yeah, like the goblet of fire, but cooler.
And we had white ash, gray ash, and black ash. The white ash were the purest of the pure. The gray being the common man because they were both good and bad. They were, a mixed pot. The black ash that was all horrible. We don't talk about them. They get erased from history, and we bury them deep, and we forget that they ever existed.
So the prophecy was, what's the prophecy again?
The embers of the Allfire yet burn on Malorum. The gold will be rekindled, hidden by the faithful, guarded from the heretics. It is thy destiny. Of thy flesh thou shalt give to the gold, and thus shalt the dawn come.
That is the prophecy. So, then he points out,
when the serpent swallows the seed, when the fountain swallows the sun, I will return and bear thee to thy fate. Amen.
When the serpent swallows the seed, when the fountain swallows the sun, I will return and bear thee to thy fate. So he's told them what it is and when. Now, I have a hypothesis on that. Is that a prophecy, or is that a quest that he has been given, and then if he doesn't obey it, he'll be told it's like, oh, well, you were supposed to be the chosen one, but you weren't real. That kind of a thing. It's disguised as prophecy.
I would love a reverse chosen ones narrative. Dennis, do the reverse chosen one narrative. If I can't
Wasn't
have
that Legacy of Kain?
Yeah,
Legacy of Kain was reverse chosen one.
I can't have my Alaric raising a cool vampire slayer Buffy daughter, lone wolf and cub style. Give me reverse.
That's still on the table. That's still on the table, because don't forget, one of the things he said that you answered my prayer. He says 3 times you have prayed, and
That's
3
right,
times
3
you have
times.
been delivered.
And then we get the title of the episode: the pillar, the prisoner, and the child.
Yes. Because remember, he said, Alsabaoth, help me. And then, boom, he'd no memory of what happened. He was suddenly in a field out in the middle of nowhere at his home, ironically. Yes. So he didn't really eat the child at all.
We get a cool thing. Alaric snaps out of it. This is my notes. Alaric snaps out of it after to be sitting in a field of grass in a calm serenity, whispering a wordless prophecy, is what Alaric says. Oh, it's so dinner. But it gives question, what happened to Falk and Bo? Did they escape in time? How are they going to get back up? Oh, wait, never mind.
I think they had to nope out of there.
Clack might be gone. They totally had to nope out of there. Like, is Alaric going to go back to Amarax now? Is he going to go back to the mound and be like, hey, guys, I'm okay. Just let you know I'm okay. Like what's...
That's what I'm curious. Do you think he goes back to Amarax first or goes back to the Ghouls first?
I don't know. See, if it were me, I would totally go back to the Ghouls and be like, hey, I'm cool. Thanks for helping me out. Hope you guys are okay. I'll see you next one. I got my soul stone. Sorry about the mess. Let's have dinner sometime, Is
that dude still in the cage? Is he okay?
Is that dude still in the cage? Is he cool? Is he a ghoul now? It would be cool if the next episode or the next time we run into the Ghouls, we meet that prisoner as a ghoul now. And he's the next ghoul that Alaric meets. Just to bring it kind of, I don't know, answer that sort of.
Imagine later on in the game if you end up teaming up with that ghoul for quests or something.
That would be cool.
As someone who's been in the community long enough, you're like, I know where he came from.
Exactly.
Like, you actually, it's not that you read the story. You were there as the story unfolded of when he became a ghoul, and then you're helping him out.
Yeah. I talked to you in prison. How you doing?
Hey, like you're okay. That dude that was in jail with Alaric.
My name is Drek Ghoul. I don't know. Whatever his name is. But yeah, that would be sick. I loved this episode. I loved that we got more insight into the Ghouls' culture. I think the throat singing is one of the most baller things ever.
The throat singing was incredible. It was one of my favorite parts to the episode.
It definitely was. I love.
Not only was the performance awesome, but it actually gave texture to the culture of the Ghouls.
Yeah, absolutely.
No games or stories and all really Jesus, outside of Lord of the Rings, there's very few things where you go and meet these different races of people and they're actually different. They're always just, it's like, oh, it's these people, but they're black, or it's these people and they're Asian or something, but they're all the same. Like, to even take a look, and I know I will be ripped for this. Take a look at The Witcher. We're mentioning The Witcher again. You've got Nilfgaardians, but it doesn't really show how they're really that different from the Northern Kingdoms. Like, they're flying different flags and they have a different language, but functionally they're the same type of thing, really.
Well, I think
the War of the Roses. What's it called? What's the
I know what you're talking about. Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. It's Game of Thrones all over again. You've got all these different cultures, but they're not really that different at all. But here you see it's like, no, these are an entirely different race. They have their own language. They have an entirely separate culture. They have a different immune system. They have a different hierarchy. They have, like, everything about their reality is different. And then we're going to learn that for each class.
Yeah.
That's going to be awesome.
Cool. I like that kind of world building. Like, not to derail too much on The Witcher, but I think with The Witcher, I guess they're all supposed to be sort of ambiguously the same, because there is no black and white. There is only gray, you know.
They're European, if you notice. It's intentionally done. They're European. So in the Northern Kingdoms, that is clearly Northwest and Eastern Europe, because you've got bits and pieces from Slavic folklore and culture. You've got Romanian, you've got Hungarian, you've got lots of Polish, because it's Polish. You know, so there's a lot of, like, Polish culture and customs in there. The song that they use is Bulgarian. Like, a lot of the music is from Bulgaria. There's Bulgarian music, and you've got, like, hints to, like, Vikings and stuff with the Skelligs, and, like, that's kind of a mix between Vikings and Irish and Celtic and all like that. Then when we go to the Nilfgaardians from the south, it's clearly a weird mix between French, Spanish, and Italian. Just based on architecture, their culture, their food, all of this, you know. So we've got all these, they're generic European, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it works for that universe because you're just in medieval Poland anyway. And Game of Thrones is literally just the War of the Roses, but with dragons. I mean, that's cool. I love that stuff. That's cool. But I love how the Ghoul has it's a separate culture from whatever the Liches are. From whatever. It's very I think I said this before, way back in the day. It's very Conan-esque, where in Conan it's essentially just Europe pre Stone Age or whatever.
Pre-Iron Age. Just at the cusp of Iron Age.
Yeah, because if you read the books, Conan is a Scotsman from the Highlands, but it works because he was born on the border of Scotland and, like, Norway or something, so having Arnold in the movie works.
Hyboria is kind of a generic. It kind of doesn't. It doesn't sort of specify the thing, but you can see when he's a child, there's snow, but they're kind of Celtic in their cultural garb rather than being more Nordic.
Whatever a kilt is back then, wears a kilt. Aquilonians are just the Roman Empire. The Picts are just the actual Picts, which is funny. I think that's the if you guys ever, not to derail too much, if you guys ever read Conan, you have a vast knowledge and a really deep, for short stories that are less than 20 minutes long, if you listen to them or something, they have a really deep knowledge of, this is the society that you're in right now. This is that society that you're in right now. This is that society that you're in right now. But the Picts are just the Picts. Like,
funny
literally,
story for a lot of the ones that might not know here. That was the old name for Scotland. It was Pictland.
Yeah, and I think another one, Brackmac Morn, is another Robert E. Howard Conan creation, and I want to say there's one story where Conan is fighting Pictish tribes, and it's vague. It doesn't say the name outright, but I think him and Brackmac Morn have a fight, and he is the king of the Pictish in the Conan universe. But
don't know that story, but the way you said it, Brackmac Morn, that's either Irish or Scottish. Clearly,
it's one of those. It's literally just the Picts. But anyways, back to Deadhaus. I like that for the Ghouls, that they have the throat singing, and the bile pool is gross, but I love it. I love the gross bile pool.
I want to know who decides what ghouls get to sit in the bile and who has to sit out of the bile, because that's clearly some kind of hierarchical thingy.
Yeah. I like how we see we
And
go
Falk
through.
gets to sit in it. So is he important? Is he someone higher up?
We
He
sort of
seems like
walk
he's
through. We learn more about some ghoul society a little bit more with conversion of ghouls, I suppose. While they're walking to the giant bile pit, I almost said ghoul pit, bile pit. They're walking through a chamber or a room full of other more emaciated people, but they're trapped in like that disgusting wax,
that gooey
mold.
amber stuff. Yeah,
that gooey amber stuff, and then they're clearly starving them for purposes. And
keep in mind, they're starving them, right? So we can probably infer they're trying to feed them and turn them into ghouls. But then in the previous episode, you've seen the ghouls in a pit where they had a big mound of body parts and they were sorting them into other things, like into like beehives or like the honeycomb things, and sealing it up. So are they letting that stuff rot and then feeding that to the humans to turn them? Like, is there a process to this? There's
gotta be
a system. They're not just doing random crap. There's a system to what they're doing. They're intelligent.
I like how
and they have a process.
I like that they have a process, because originally I was just thinking, oh well, ghouls become ghouls because a starving person is on their last desperate attempt to survive, and in order to do that they have to eat someone, but then in turn they get cursed and become a ghoul. Apparently the ghouls figured that out and have now monopolized it and turned it into a business of sorts.
Well,
Here, rent your free ghoul. It takes 3 to 6 weeks to transform.
The question is, right, and this will be a lot more interesting in regards to culture. Why do they need to make more ghouls? Because if there's more ghouls, won't that mean a greater strain on resources?
Definitely. Oh man, Deadhaus 4X civilization game in the works, perhaps.
Oh, that's a spin-off right there.
Dude,
and you know Dennis would love that.
Literally just make the Sims or Civilization, but with Deadhaus.
You got all the different houses, but you have one that just starts off with Deadhaus, and you've got all the different factions, and then when you get them all together and you like level up and graduate, it takes on Deadhaus versus the other houses in this like massive game of Risk.
RTS, Deadhaus. You know, and then if you want, game idea, you could single player it and just pick a single culture from that house. So for Deadhaus, you can pick ghoul, vampire, whatever, or other planet or human, and then you just focus solely on that. So if I want to build my own mound as ghouls and just get really intricately detailed with it, I could in a separate thing. But the
your base builder game there.
Yeah, exactly.
Your sub-game base builder game, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's some cool ideas, dude.
Spin-off title. I'd play it. I'd buy that in a heartbeat. But yeah, I think it's cool.
That's pretty much
the Angel.
That's pretty much it. I still think, as Dennis had pointed out, it was his favorite episode to date. I definitely think it's one of mine. If it's not my favorite, it is definitely in the top 3. Because there is so much brought into this, and we've moved away from exposition about the lore, and we're getting to know the characters. Like, you could even see everyone watching it was actually really worried about Bo, because we're starting to care about these characters. They're starting to matter, you know?
Yeah.
I'd always argue, people would argue that, oh, well, Alaric always mattered. Yeah, no, you kind of loved it when bad stuff happened to him too. Come on, we all laughed when he nearly got caught like 3 or 4 times experimenting on the proto-whites, you know? Like,
quick, turn him around. No.
Stop him from screaming. No, turn his head back. We all love that. And don't forget, despite everyone thinking he's a hero, Alaric's not a nice guy. He's done some nasty stuff.
No, he's done some
Didn't he feed that
stuff.
dude to the ghoul? Remember?
Oh, yeah, he did. He did. I pointed that out earlier in the episode. Yeah, he did. That was sort of a circular thing. You know, Here, feed me that guy. I'll make him go away. Here is a guy I'm going to feed you. Like, cool stuff. Cool stuff. The voice acting is great. It's so good, man. Bo and Falk and Alaric are such a great team.
Hold on, I'll pull them up because I want to make sure I get a shout out to absolutely everyone in that and get their names correctly, because
absolutely.
I remember some off the cuff. Like, for example, I know Damon We've got David Allums as Bo Ghoul. We've got the amazing George Ledoux as Alaric, as always. For Falk, we have Matthew Curtis. We'll link to, at the end of this, we'll put the link to our interview with Matt, because Matt's awesome.
Yep.
Love that guy. We got Matt Curtis. We've got Jack Lindsay as the Pillar. A lot of people didn't know that.
Really?
The spider.
So is the spider
that
the
was
pillar?
Jack.
That's cool.
It was referred to as that to not give away things. It was called the Pillar, the Prisoner, and the Messenger at the end in the thing.
Stars
not give
above,
away.
dude.
So that credits could be put up, but that it wouldn't spoil the story. So the Pillar was voiced by our own Jack Lindsay, which you should all know Jack by now. And if you don't, you need to go watch more Deadhaus videos, to be honest with you. The Prisoner was also voiced by Matthew Curtis. And the Messenger, or the Angel, was also voiced by Damon Allums.
Awesome. Well, very diverse, very great.
Want to give it an awesome shout out to the guys, because everyone knocked it out of the park. And I keep mentioning it because the guy doesn't get enough praise. Big shout out to Felipe, who does the sound and the recording and everything like that.
Dude.
Excellent.
I thought the throat singing was the coolest thing ever, man.
I need to hit them up to see who done the throat singing. I wouldn't put it past it to be half of the guys there. They just doing it. Well, we're all here. Let's do it.
Growl into a microphone.
I think that wraps us up.
I love that throat singing is coming back, though, in like pop culture. You know,
the first time I'd heard of it getting put into pop culture in a long time was when they brought out the Simpsons movie. Remember when Homer goes up to the north and he meets that Inuit woman and she starts teaching him about the throat singing? Yeah. That was the first time I was like, oh, that's
my most recent memory was in Doom Eternal with all the throat singing in Doom Eternal.
Works too.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mick Gordon.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep crapping on him for all the different stuff, but Mick is an absolute legend.
Yeah, what a legend. Anyway, yes, that wraps it up for this episode. Everyone go play Doom Eternal.
Yes.
And you can follow us on all these social medias.
We must do the shilling then. I will bring this up. Don't forget, you can follow us if you're not watching it now and you're listening to us later on Spotify or any other podcasting platforms or on YouTube. You can also follow us on Twitch, where we do these live, and you can catch all the funny mistakes and outtakes and Calypso and me having technical issues on twitch.tv/Deadhaus Whispers. You need to make sure you go follow Deadhaus Sonata officially and properly at deadhaussonata.com on the website, which will have all their links to everything. You can follow Calypso on Twitter, or X as we're calling it, which I still have difficulty getting to, at the Necrolibriatus, as on screen now. You can follow me on Twitter at the Faceless Mike. You can keep an eye on us here at Deadhaus Whispers on Twitter with at Deadhaus Whisper to keep up to date on all of our shenanigans, which you will find more and more interesting as we go along. You'll see why shortly. Follow Deadhaus Game at Deadhaus Game for Deadhaus Sonata's official news and intro. And you can follow us on the Instagrams at Deadhaus Whispers, where you can check out absolutely everything. And again, if you're watching this live on Twitch or anywhere else, you can go onto our YouTube at youtube.com at Deadhaus Whispers. And we need to clip that so Mike doesn't have to do this again.
Exactly. I should get on that, definitely.
We could do all of that for the shilling, but that way you can keep up with us. You can keep up with Calypso, myself, Deadhaus Whispers, and Deadhaus Sonata officially, because y'all might want to keep an eye out over the next while. I can't say much, but keep an eye.
Keep a giant, biblically accurate angel eye with a bunch of wings surrounding
with 700 wings and a giant eye.
So scary. Like, so scary. Oh, I had more questions about the angels for Dennis, but we'll get to that into another time. Anyways, I've been Calypso, Faceless Mike, per usual. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. We will see you in the next one. Fight the living, everybody. Deadhaus Whispers, Deadhaus Sonata. Huzzah. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Much appreciation from us, yes, for listening to Deadhaus Whispers.
Ah, yes. Thank you for listening to Deadhaus Whispers with Faceless Mike and Calypso. They're lovely people. Don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll find you.
Hello, fellow fans of Deadhaus. Follow Deadhaus Whispers, or else.
From the creator of Legacy of Kain and Eternal Darkness, Deadhaus Sonata is a narrative-driven action RPG in which you take the role of the undead and fight against the living. Visit us at www.deadhaussonata.com for updates on development. That's Dead, H-A-U-S, Sonata.com.